Welcome on into BKL Nightly. I'm Thad Brown along with Caleb Carr and Rachel Libert. Full house for this Monday, February the 23rd. Today what we're going to do is examine what I call pipe dream season. This is the part of the year where no matter what team you root for, the thought is, wow, what if we traded for that guy? Maybe that guy I want to sign here. And it inevitably leads to social media conversations where, especially with Bills fans, and this is not Bills fans, but just to give an example, I'll get something like, do you think the Rams would take Keon Coleman in a fifth for Puka Nacua? So we start with stuff like that and then dive into all these different options that people are throwing out. How many of those are a pipe dream and how many of those are realistic? Not only that that player might be available, but realistic to the Bills. So we're going to go through a number of guys today and see what we think of each individual situation from a salary cap perspective, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll start with the one that's the most popular this offseason because it is probably the best player that Bills fans have talked about, and that is wide receiver Justin Jefferson being traded from the Vikings to the Bills. Here's the argument for it. Jefferson is unhappy that J.J. McCarthy is not a great quarterback, but it will cost the Vikings a number of dollars to trade him. Guys, this is the easiest one on the day, right, Rachel?
I mean, it's a pipe dream, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say, do you agree with me?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay. I'm like,
easy,
I'm getting looks. I'm like, wait, is this realistic?
This is easy. Yeah.
I mean, just like you said, it's expensive for Minnesota, and it's just they don't want to trade Justin Jefferson. I mean, even if Justin Jefferson, he did say like a few weeks ago that he's a Viking. I mean, you're going to say that when you're actively on the team, but this is not realistic at all. I mean, the Bills I don't think they have enough to give up for Justin Jefferson in that. I don't know. It's just a pipe dream, I guess. There's nothing to really back it up except for this is just not going to happen.
In my notes, I just have written LOL. That's all.
that is the correct
That's my
answer.
analysis.
Yeah.
No, I agree with everything Rachel said. It just doesn't, not only does it not make sense from a money standpoint, he is the best receiver. I mean, I guess you can argue it, but he's one of the best receivers in the NFL, if not the best receiver in the NFL. You're not just going to get rid of him because after one season of J.J. McCarthy, he doesn't want to be there. You're going to try to see if you can fix the quarterback problem before you just let him walk. He's under a very big contract. They're, like we said, trying to move on from him is just going to cost them more, which means that his price is going to be even. His price is already high because, like I said, he's one of the best wide receivers. But then you look into the fact that getting rid of him is going to cost them money. That just bumps his price up even more. The Bills were already not within the original price range. They're definitely out of it now.
And that price range is what it would cost them in draft capital, et cetera, et cetera. We're not going to belabor this point. Justin Jefferson is the pipe dream of all pipe dreams, not happening at all. All right, number 2 on our list, Jaylen Waddle, a guy the Bills were rumored to be interested in at the deadline. Brandon Beane pretty much all but said so. The argument for Jaylen Waddle being available is that the Dolphins are doing a hard rebuild. Underline the word hard 3 times. They're probably going to release Tua Tagovailoa. He will cost them $99 million in dead money, which is just a ridiculous number for 1,000 reasons. Bradley Chubb, Tyreek Hill are already rumored to be being gone. So how available, Rachel, do we think Jaylen Waddle is when it comes to the Bills' point of view?
I completely get the rebranding, rebuilding of Miami, but I still feel like this falls under the pipe dream category for me, just because, I mean, the Bills reportedly put in an offer before on him near the trade deadline. It didn't go through. I just don't see this coming back and working out for the Bills. I get the whole Miami is rebuilding, rebranding, but I still don't see this being a realistic possibility for the Bills. I mean, I wouldn't say it's 100% off the table, but I would still say it leans closer to the pipe dream for me.
I'm going to go in the opposite direction. I'm going to go real chance, but kind of similar to Rachel, barely real chance. I think it makes sense that they want to move on. We already saw that there were rumors that the Bills tried to go get him. Maybe the price that the Bills were offering, maybe whatever they were offering wasn't enough. I do think that now that we're at the end of the season and Waddle had a decent year, even with Tua throwing him the ball, which we saw didn't go well, or whoever the Dolphins had in at quarterback, we saw Waddle still showed that he's a good wide receiver. Now that Hill is gone, I feel like although I get like the hard reset and that he is part of the team, therefore he should be part of the reset, I don't think the Dolphins want to move on from him. And for that reason, I think that wanting to keep him with Hill also being gone now. The Dolphins are going to want to keep onto him. That price, whatever the price was at the trade deadline, that might be a little bit higher. With all that being said, I do think that the Dolphins are trying to get whatever they possibly can, and they know that Waddle is probably the best player on their roster right now that can get them the most picks. So I'm kind of back and forth, but I think I'm going to stick real chance, but barely. Like, it's a barely real chance, and the Bills are going to have to give up a lot, especially since they're a division opponent.
The thing with this is I think it's realistic to think Waddle might be available, but I think it's a pipe dream for the Bills because it's in division. And even that being said, I'm more with you guys where the realistic chances of Waddle being available are very small. Because at some point, I don't care how hard your rebuild's going to be, you got to have good players, right? The whole point of rebuilding is to eventually end up with a good team. And you have this guy in Jaylen Waddle, who we know is a good player, who we know can be a contributor for a long period of time. Yeah, that successful season is probably not this year or next year, but it doesn't mean that you're just going to burn everything down. So I think the Dolphins lean more towards keeping Waddle, especially because it's going to cost them another $12 million to trade him. Mm-hmm. If he was a guy that you could get rid of and save money to kind of offset where you're going to lose with having to give up on Tua, then I think it's more realistic. But from the point of view of you don't want to tear it down to the studs, and this is not really helping the tear down, I think it's pretty darn close to a pipe dream league-wide and probably a pipe dream if you're in Buffalo. All right, next guy up on this list is another wide receiver. That would be Caleb. A.J. Brown, pipe dream or real?
I'm gonna say pipe dream. I get that people think that the Eagles are probably going to move on from him or they want to get rid of him. You know, there's a lot of drama that comes around him. There's some off kind of sideline issues that we've seen. I think the Eagles in general just kind of had like a down year. We didn't really hear a ton about this kind of stuff when they won the Super Bowl, like because they were winning. And now obviously they're not doing as good. They kind of struggled. The run game isn't working as well. A.J. Brown's getting shut down. You know, the past season was just kind of a weird one for Brown and the Eagles. So obviously when that happens, there's conversations that come up. There's rumors that begin to get made and sparked throughout the league. But I think that him and the Eagles relationship is a little bit better than maybe the fans and the media think it is. But even if it wasn't, even if this was real, I don't think I would be a fan of the Bills doing it just because of what his current media, like what his current perceived image is. I don't know if that's what you want to bring. I don't know if that's someone that Joe Brady wants to bring in. I don't think he really fits the vibe, the culture that the Bills are trying to build right now. So even if it was a real, like even if I thought it was real, I don't think it was going to happen. But I don't even think it is. I think it's a pipe dream.
Again, the argument here is that A.J. Brown and the Eagles don't get along because it doesn't make any sense for the Eagles otherwise. You're a contending team. You think you're a championship team. You want to keep your really good players around. It's going to cost them $20 million more on the cap to get rid of him. So it doesn't help you salary cap wise. Now, the one of the benefits for trading, both from the Eagles' point of view and the new team, is that the contract for the new team would only be a $7 million cap hit. You get A.J. Brown right now for $7 million on your cap. You're going to pay quite a bit for that. So I think that might make it an attractive trade in terms of what the Eagles could potentially land. And I do think this one is actually a realistic one for the Bills from that point of view. If things have gone that far south in Philly, you feel like with Howie Roseman, you have a GM that can get you out of any problem. I think that they may just decide that we don't need the headache of A.J. Brown and move on. So I think it's realistic for the Bills that it's available to them. To your point, though, Caleb, do you want to play that game again? You just walked away from Stephon Diggs 2 years ago. Yeah. Is A.J. Brown Stephon Diggs 2.0? I don't know if he's the same guy, but there certainly seems like a potential there.
I land in the middle, I think. I agree with both of your points. To your point, Caleb, I don't think this is a guy that the Bills would want to bring in. I think culturally, just fitting in with who the Bills are, and you said like media stuff and everything, I completely agree with that. But I do see the point of I think this is his last year of guaranteed contract or guaranteed money on his contract. So like that makes it more appealing. But I think there is a realistic chance this could happen, but I don't see it happening. But like just the money wise and the Bills needing a receiver, A.J. Brown could be that guy. But I agree with Caleb in the sense of I don't think he really fits this Bills team. but I could see this being a real chance of something in the talks.
One thing to keep in mind, the culture of the Bills team is different now. This is the Joe
true.
Brady team.
That is true.
So, and we don't know what that's going to be. I know the Bills are probably going to want to sell you as it's going to be Sean McDermott, but just a little bit better. It's going to be different. Joe Brady may want to take on a personality more like an A.J. Brown. We don't know. It's his show now. So there's more, I think, of a potential. To me, of all the guys we're going to talk about today, trade-wise, this is the one I think is the most realistic. If Philly's done with him, this is the one that I think the Bills would be most likely to go after. He's an instant contributor. He's not much on the cap. And if you want to stomach whatever headache he might bring, and we don't even know if there is a headache, that makes sense. Everybody else we're going to talk about, there's some level of projection to it, the guys who are realistic. So to me, of the realistic options, A.J. Brown is the number one guy on my list.
I mean, if we're assuming that that all the rumors are true and there is a really, really bad relationship there, then I do think I agree with you that, I mean, he's so good that the headache just might be worth it. Like with Stephon Diggs, he was good in Buffalo, but he was starting to show signs of is he going to keep that good? So the headache started to become not as worth it. A.J. Brown, I think, is at the top of his game and the headache would be worth it. I just don't think the relationship is as bad as we all think it is.
And you may be right. For all the questions about A.J. Brown and anybody who had him on a fantasy team last year, I was one of those people.
Me as well.
Exactly. You were super frustrated. He was still a top 10 receiver by total points. So this is still a guy that is elite, that is an instant offensive changer.
And that's the thing too, if he's not this big character guy that we're saying, or whatever the relationship is with Philly, that might be the risk you want to take, because you need to bring in an elite receiver. So to your point, I think A.J. Brown is definitely one of the guys high up on that list, regardless of if we're comparing him to Diggs or what we're going to compare him to. I think that is a risk that you might be willing to take for him.
We'll have a few more receivers we'll talk about in a minute, but let's hit a couple of defensive guys. How about Trey Hendrickson, who is a current free agent, so the Bills don't have to trade anything for him. What you have to do is just pay more money than everybody else is going to pay for Trey Hendrickson. I don't know if Brandon Beane has the stomach for paying out for another big-time free agent edge rusher after what happened with Von Miller. The Bengals, in theory, I guess, could still be in the Trey Hendrickson sweepstakes. They are the ones who had him last year, but they're already paying Joe Burrow and two receivers big-time money. The market value for Trey Hendrickson per spot track is $25 million per year, which is a big chunk of change. Now, the Bills can afford it, but you got two offensive line spots you got to fill, other stuff you got to do. So, Rachel, how realistic is Trey Hendrickson?
This is a pipe dream for me, just mostly because of the money. And also, Hendrickson is 31 years old, and I don't think... If you want to go big, I feel like, if Bean is going to go big, I want it to go big on a receiver, regardless. I mean, they need an edge rusher, but if you're going to go big on an edge rusher, I don't think you're going to go big on a 31-year-old who is maybe leaning more towards the Joey Bosa of where is he at in this point in his career. I just think because he's a free agent, because the Bills, it's going to be hard to even afford him. I'm going to say this is more of a pipe dream just compared to the other edge rushers out there.
I also think this is a pipe dream mainly because of the money, like Rachel was saying. But you also, if they were to do this, if they were to kind of swing big on an edge rusher, I think that Trey Hendrickson, unfortunately, is probably the guy they did do it with, because they did it with Von Miller. They did it with Joey Bosa. For some reason, Brandon Beane likes these edge rushers that are kind of heading towards the door.
Yeah. Those are the only ones who are available.
Well, yes, but he's just fully ready. He's been bit before, but he's fully ready to just keep trying. I do think that Hendrickson's price tag is a little bit more outrageous than maybe Bosa's or Von Miller's were. He's still proven that he can play, and he's obviously still very good. There's some injury question marks there. I think he would be good. I would maybe like it, but so expensive. I just don't think, with everything else that you need right now, like you said, O-line, stuff in the secondary, stuff on the defensive line, there's just so many other bigger issues than trying to go swing big on a guy like Henderson.
I'm with you guys. I do think it's a real chance, but not realistic for the Bills to do if you subscribe to a logical team build, which to me, after what Seattle and Philly did, is we're not going to have one incredible edge rusher or defensive lineman. We're going to try and roll out 7 pretty good ones. And if you want to do that, you can't sign Trey Hendrickson in that play. And to Rachel's point, if you want to find impact, you probably would rather do it on one big swing at receiver than here. Now, I think if the Bills really wanted to be in the Trey Hendrickson sweepstakes, I think they could land him. I think it's realistic. I just don't think, based on where they're at, what they have to do, how much he's probably going to cost, that becomes something that they do. I won't call it a pipe dream, though. I think it's a more realistic chance than that. Speaking of defensive linemen, how about another one that might be an instant change kind of guy, and that would be Max Crosby. So the current Las Vegas Raider, I had to remember what city they were in. Getting old, everybody. The argument for Crosby being available is he's not happy to have to go through another rebuild, which there have been signs that may very well be the case. Now, if the team trades for him, they're taking on a $30 million cap hit. So that's going to reduce, though, what you have to pay in draft compensation. Not that much, because it's Max Crosby. You're still going to pay the Raiders a first and then some, probably another first, to be honest. I think the Micah Parsons trade is a good place to start, which was 2 1s and a good defensive lineman. The Raiders won't have to eat too much dead money. So it's an easy trade for them to make. The thing with the Raiders is that they already have $100 million in cap space. We hear about the salary cap all the time, but there's also a salary floor, which means you got to pay somebody. So I don't know how motivated they're going to be to want to move on from Max Crosby, even if he's not happy. Now, again, at some level, if the guy doesn't want to be there, he doesn't want to be there. But Rachel, from the Bills' point of view, how much of a pipe dream is Max Crosby?
I think I land somewhere in the middle. I mean, I feel like so many of these guys where it's like, okay, this is a pipe dream, but there is maybe a small chance. I mean, if we're talking about rebuilding, should I mention my grand plan, Caleb, about the Keon Coleman?
Let's hear it. Yeah, let's hear
my
it.
grand plan for the Bills, and I said grand, and then Caleb was like, I don't know if that's grand.
It's a plan.
It's a plan. It's a suggestion. It's possible. No, I mean, okay,
No,
if you're gonna,
this is a pipe dream.
No, this is a pipe dream. This is for sure. But I mean, I'm having a hard time putting my words together here, because this is a pipe dream.
Spit it out.
Like,
Go
this
ahead.
really
Let's
is a
hear
pipe
it.
dream.
Let's hear it. Grand
But
plan.
I mean, if you're really only going to get Crosby if you have something to offer, and I'm not saying Keon Coleman is the guy that's going to like solve the problem, but like in the Keon Coleman world of like who we're going to trade and what the deal looks like, I don't think they're okay. It's very close to pipe dream, but like Keon Coleman and some draft picks for Max Crosby, like maybe that's my grand plan, and like it is a little bit close to a pipe dream.
Yes.
But I think, like I said, I don't think they're going to land Max Crosby just because I don't think they have enough assets to really land him, and the Raider, I don't know. I guess this is one that I'm like, I was hoping Caleb would go first.
Sorry about that.
I think I just talked in circles for like 3 minutes.
I got you.
Keon Coleman's not helping you with this trade at all.
No. That's why
Keon Coleman might like make the trade less attractive for the
You're
Raiders.
right.
Yeah, potentially.
You're right.
If you're doing a trade for the Bills, it's probably going to be 2 1s and Greg Rousseau. Is probably what the deal is.
I don't hate that though. I don't
think it's a
know
terrible
if I
idea
hate
either.
that.
No.
Aside from the money aspect, and that's why right now I have this as a pipe dream, mainly because of the money aspect, but also kind of going back to similar to what I said about AJ Brown. I think Max Crosby might be more willing to stay in Vegas than we think he is. Now, obviously, this has been a thing that's been going on for a few years now. Like we've kind of been having these Max Crosby talks on for a while, and it's always doesn't want to go through rebuild. Well, I don't blame him when your quarterbacks are Jared Stidham, Aiden O'Connell, Jimmy Garoppolo, Gardner Minshew, and then Geno Smith last year. Like those were the guys that were, hey, this is who we're bringing in to try to help us this year. This year, you're going to get the top quarterback in the NFL draft in Francisco Mendoza. Fernando. I said Francisco.
I've
you
been
did
doing
that last
too.
time.
That's
I know.
me. I know. I put that in your head.
Fernando
I'm
Mendoza.
sorry about that.
Fernando Mendoza. You're also bringing in Clint Kubiak. This is... When you look at the Raiders and you use the word rebuild, this is probably the closest they've been to the peak of a rebuild in the past 3-4 years. Like they're finally starting to move in the right direction. So I think if he said that he likes Vegas, like he likes staying in Vegas. So I think if he wants to say, I think if he wants to be a Raider, now is not the time to leave. Like you would have had to leave last year, would have made sense. 2 years ago would have made sense. Now the team is finally on the up. I think he's gonna stay. And I think Clint Kubiak, being a brand new head coach, is like, dude, you're the best, one of the best defensive players in the league. I have to keep you. He's gonna do whatever he can to keep him.
It's kind of funny on the one hand that your point is like saying to Max Crosby, no, this is the good rebuild. The other rebuilds, those weren't the real. This is the good one, right? The other ones we haven't done.
Can you really sit there and say that Jared Stidham and Geno Smith at the time, you're like, oh, these are good options? Right. No, Mendoza, we at least have like okay, this is finally a good option.
Let me finish what I'm saying. The one hand, it's funny to say to Max Crosby, no, this is the good one. But on the other hand, it is right. You're right. This is a much better looking rebuild from what the Raiders are trying to do. And like we said, they have $100 million in cap space too.
Yes.
They can put a team around Mendoza that's not too dissimilar in theory than what the Patriots just did and went to the Super Bowl with Drake May.
And they can give Crosby some pieces on the defense too.
Exactly. So I think you make a really good point here that things may not be as bad between Crosby and the Raiders as it seems. And also, too, what's going to sell more clicks this time of year? That Crosby's happy and everything's cool, or that he's not? Of course, the answer that he's not. So I think you had a good point there. For me, this is like Hendrickson. And then in that it's realistic for the Bills if they're going to subscribe to this team build, which is dumping a bunch of picks and a player into this one great defensive edge rusher. And again, I think both Hendrickson and Crosby could have a huge impact. I mean, the Bills' offense last year, even as is, and we're going to assume they bring back a couple offensive linemen, maybe not as same as McGovern and Edwards, but 80, 90% of that. If you have a top 7 offense and the defense the Bills had last year with a better coordinator and a ridiculous edge rusher, that might be enough, especially in the AFC. I'm with you, Caleb. I know you're rolling your eyes at it. I wouldn't go about it that way, but there's an argument for that being enough for this team going into 2026.
Yeah, but I think with what they're trying to do is that might be enough for the next couple of years, but that's not going to be enough 5 years down the line. And I think that's what this team is doing. And that's what we've seen from Brandon Beane and Terry Pegula is like, okay, getting rid of Sean McDermott, bringing in Joe Brady. This isn't a win right now move. It's we're trying to make it so that we have a chance to win 3 to 4 in the next however many years.
And the other part of that is, as we've talked about a couple of times, is also that this year probably won't be the year.
Exactly.
But they don't want to tell the fans that to.
And I don't know if bringing in Max Crosby goes along with that plan.
In terms of the long term.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, Crosby could be good for a while. I don't think he's 30 yet, but I know what you're saying. All right, let's go back to the receivers now. Marvin Harrison Jr., the former number 4 overall pick with the Cardinals. Here's the argument for Harrison being available. Cardinals want to move on from him. He hasn't been anywhere near what they hoped. Michael Wilson last year had 1,000 yards in like half a season. And this is a trade that the Cardinals can easily facilitate. They would add $1 million in change if they moved on. So the argument here is simply you have Trey McBride, you have Michael Wilson, ergo, you don't need Marvin Harrison. Caleb, you can go first this time.
I think this one is a little bit more realistic. If I'm the Cardinals, I'm not moving on from him. I'm keeping him. I'm letting him continue to develop and continue to grow and hope that he becomes sniffs the ceiling that we thought that he was going to have when he came out of the draft. But I also know that the Cardinals organization doesn't always do the right moves. So because of that, I do think that this one's a little bit more realistic. And I think the Bills can actually manage this one. I will say I think the Cardinals' asking price for Harrison is going to be higher than what teams are willing to pay. Not just the Bills, any team. Because right now what he's shown in the NFL isn't high-quality wide receiver, but they're still, or like top-tier wide receiver. The Cardinals are still going to try to sell him as a top-tier, as they should, because he's only going into his 3rd year and he's a first-round pick. So you should still continue to sell him as a top-tier wide receiver, but I don't think anyone else wants to buy him as a top-tier wide receiver. If the Bills think that they can develop him, if Joe Brady thinks, hey, get him a good quarterback. I mean, I know Michael Wilson's been doing good, but like Kyler Murray isn't the best option at QB. So maybe, hey, bring him into Buffalo, fresh new start. Yeah, Josh Allen back there throwing to Marvin Harrison. Maybe they really like that, and maybe they're willing to pay it. I think they definitely could. It definitely could work out. I'm going to say this one's, I'm going to say this is a real chance.
I agree. I think this is a real chance, too. I mean, he's still on his rookie contract, and he's had 2 solid years in the NFL. I don't think Arizona is particularly pushing. I mean, they have other options, but I do too. I mean, the Bills' new wide receiver coach is coached Terrell. Is it Terrell or is it Terrell? Drew
Terrell, I think.
Terrell.
Yeah.
Coached Marvin Harrison Jr. at Arizona, I think, for the last year or something like that. So I think there is a real chance, and I do, regardless of if it's pipe dream or not, I do like the idea of kind of bringing in a younger guy that might still be on that rookie contract. I think it would be beneficial. So yeah, I think it's a real chance.
I think this is 100% a pipe dream. I think Bills fans are imagining that a guy who was really good would be given up on after 2 years because the other organization is dumb. And it is a dumb one. Don't get me wrong. That's the only reason that's realistic, because it's the Cardinals. You're not going to spend the 4th overall pick on this guy and then move on from 2 years because A, he was not great. It wasn't like he was bad. He was not great. And B, because you have a different receiver that had one good half season. And the one that blows me away with this is that the Bills somehow want him because they have the wide receiver coach. Isn't he the wide receiver coach that made him bad?
Yeah,
Isn't this the guy that couldn't figure him out? And you want him now? The guy who couldn't make it work? Now you want to bring him in for that?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm 100% down.
Sorry for mentioning the wide receiver coach.
Gosh, Rachel,
no.
you just hit a nerve.
Yeah.
My goodness, Rachel, you should just walk out for the rest of this.
Absolute pipe dream here. I don't think Harrison's available. Of course, this is the guy that they'll trade for now, and I'll have to.
Oh, yeah.
I'll have to live with this
I
clip
hope
on
they do
YouTube forever.
after
that, right? Exactly. I know.
Win a Super Bowl next year. Super Bowl MVP Marvin Harrison.
That'd be wild. And then this clip would live forever, which is fine. It's how it goes.
We're gonna be the reason it lives forever.
Yeah. So I'm not really worried. It's not happening.
Okay.
Now, I guess real quick, what would be, if you're the Cardinals, what would you trade him for? Like, what would?
See, he's got to be. I think you're still asking for a 1st round pick
I
plus
think so too.
something.
Yeah.
Like that's what I mean. I think the Cardinals, like you said, there's no way that they move on from him. I think that there is a chance, because if they truly internally think, dude, we can't, he's not going to be what we need him to be. Let's see if we can still get him for that top tier, because he's still close enough. He's still young enough. He's still young enough and close enough where teams might pay that top tier thing for him. And if the Cardinals really don't like him, then that's a steal, getting a 1st round pick plus something else back. Now we've got more to work with than we had before. I just don't think a team is going to be willing to pay that. I just really don't think
this falls in the category of whatever. If there's a trade that the Cardinals are willing to accept that another team would pay, that the Cardinals are willing to accept, another team shouldn't want them anyway. In other words, if you're not, like we think it'll be a 1st round plus. No one's trading a 1st round plus for Marvin Harrison. So if you can get him for less than that, then you probably shouldn't want him.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
All right, one more guy we're going to do here, another junior. This would be Brian Thomas Jr. from the Jags. The argument here is the Jags landed Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers last year, or at least figured out an offense that works with those 2 guys. They've also spent 2 1st round picks on Travis Hunter. So there's your 3 receivers. Therefore, you don't need Brian Thomas Jr. The Bills or any team that trades for him would have him for 2 more years plus a 5th year option. So he's very, very affordable. Rachel, Brian Thomas Jr., pipe dream, or a real chance?
I think real chance. I mean, like you said, he's affordable. The Jags don't need a wide receiver 1 or 2 or 3. I mean, he's not any. I mean, he was good his rookie season, and he's still on that rookie contract. Going back to what I said about Marvin Harrison, I think this is a young guy that I think affordability is the biggest thing here. But I do think I like him better than Harrison. I know you said that's pipe dream, but I think I like him fitting better with the money involved, with the way the offense is, what the Bills offense needs. I think this is a real chance.
So before I go, another reason, and this is going to connect, don't worry. Another reason I think the Cardinals are more likely to move on is because the Cardinals are not currently a contending team. Like they're still a few years away. So they might be more willing to move on from a guy like Harrison. The Jaguars, I think this is a pipe dream because, yeah, he's cheap. So any team, like he's on his rookie contract, which means that any team that acquired him isn't going to be paying a lot. That also means the Jaguars aren't paying a whole ton either. Why, when you have this good offense, would you get rid of a good piece because we have too many? You have too much money? What are you talking about?
Too many good players.
You have too many good players? You're a team that was in the playoffs and they looked good last year. I know the Bills knocked them out, but they played a good game. I do think this is a team that Cohen in his 2nd year, like I think that this is a real threat. This team's a real threat in the AFC. And I don't think you get rid of Brian Thomas Jr., who's still a good, although last season he didn't look great, he looked really good in his rookie year. And if you can even just get a part of that, that can elevate this offense. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, he has so many options. You keep Brian Thomas Jr., it's just, this offense looks really, really good, especially if he takes a step up from where he was last year. So I don't see why you get rid of him. Maybe in a few years, if he still hasn't like become anything, then you let him walk in free agency, but you don't trade him away. You keep letting him try to grow. I think this is a pipe dream.
I think it's a pipe dream more based on the reporting that the Jags want to make Hunter a corner, and therefore you need Thomas to still play receiver. But you make a really good point about if you're a good team, why are you getting rid of good players?
Especially someone on a rookie contract.
Exactly.
Now, if it was someone who is wasting you money, then yeah, that makes sense. But
I do think that If that's not true, and I think there's a part of the world, or there's a world where the Jags are throwing that out there to up his trade value because they do want to use Travis Hunter, he might be available. And look, if the Jags don't want him a receiver, then it's realistic. Otherwise, it's a pipe dream. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of BKL Nightly. For Rachel and Caleb, I'm Thad. Thank you very much for watching. We will see you again on Thursday talking combine stuff.